For as long as scientists have been taking the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence seriously, there has been a question, an unanswered question in astrobiology called the Fermi paradox. And that is, simply put, if the universe really is so ancient, and if life can evolve on any planet, then where are all of the aliens? Why haven't we encountered them yet? And why are there no signs of life anywhere in the universe besides Earth? To get an idea of just how profound a question this is, you need to understand the timescales that we're looking at. The Milky Way galaxy isn't the oldest of the galaxies. The Earth isn't the oldest of the planets that could have conceivably evolved the life. In fact, being out on the rim, we would have expected life to evolve more towards the galactic core earlier. And yet, in the very short time window of just a few million years, we've gone from animal life, like apes, chimpanzees, to being able to develop space travel. And given just a million more years, without any faster than light technology or any super tech, just using technology that we already have, that already exists, we could populate the entire Milky Way galaxy. And if we did that, we would be detectable by life in any planet in the entire Milky Way galaxy. So the Fermi paradox is essentially, why has no one else already done that? If life could evolve on any planet in the Milky Way galaxy, someone else should have gotten there first. So there's a big disagreement between what evolutionary theory predicts and what we actually observe. We don't even observe any definitive signs of life on any other planet in our solar system, much less the kind of frequency shift in the color of light that you would expect from orbiting platforms around other stars in other solar systems. So this question has been around for so long that there have been an entire compendium of proposed solutions that have been developed for why we don't see the alien life that we would expect to see. And so I'm going to list out the 5 main categories of solutions, and then I'm going to tell you about a new kind of perspective, a biblical perspective on the Fermi paradox, which I think has not really been properly discussed. All right, so the first category of solutions are called the great filters, and it's the idea that civilizations are rare. This could be that life is simply improbable to evolve in the first place, or that civilizations have a tendency to nuke themselves out of existence once they hit some sort of point in history. Category 2 is that civilizations are out there, but they're undetectable for some reason. They are not on the same wavelength as us. They don't spread out in the way that we'd expect them to. They don't use technology that we can detect. Category 3 is that we are actually seeing aliens all the time, and we just don't recognize them. This idea was played with in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when it was said that humans are the 3rd most intelligent species on the planet after dolphins and mice. The idea here is that aliens might not conform to our expectations of, bipeds using technology. And I think there may be some truth to this. Even if they were using something, their existence might just be so different from our own that we're not recognizing them. Category 4 is the zoo hypothesis, or you could call it the prime directive, and it's the idea that aliens are intentionally hiding from us. They've decided that for whatever reason they don't want to be detected, whether for our own benefit or for their amusement. And this could be anything as benign as they're avoiding us to as extreme as we're living in a simulation and the stars that we're observing are not actually real, but some sort of a facsimile, in the same way that we put up an artificial environment around animals in a zoo. Category 5 solutions posit a sort of physical or technological ascension. The idea is that if a society advances to a high enough point, they may simply retreat into a virtual reality and thus never leave their home system. They might evolve beyond the needs of the biological world and not leave a footprint that way. Or they may just simply ascend in some other regard, and so in that regard become unrecognizable to us. So now I'd like to talk about what I think of as a perspective that's been neglected. And I think that's because of the false dichotomy between faith and science. And that's the biblical perspective. Now, the Bible actually describes another group of sapient creatures that are not humans, and it simply refers to them as angels or messengers. And it gives very clear indications these are not simply dead humans. These are a different species or multiple species, because they're given different physical descriptions. And they are physical and real in the sense that they are talked about as blocking people, interacting with the physical world, picking up objects, eating food, and being thwarted and blocked themselves. So these are real things, not just concepts. But in a way, the biblical description of angels touches on many of the Fermi paradox solutions. And I find that very interesting as I'm in discussions about Fermi paradox solutions, that they're all kind of close to the truth that the Bible entails. And I think some of this has to do with a blind spot that is built into Fermi paradox solutions. And that is a rule that assumes that aliens have no special relationship to human beings. But the reality that we experience is that everything has a relationship to everything else. We are always affected by our ancestry, particularly with how others view us. Beings that live for thousands of years would perceive us very differently than we perceive ourselves. Nothing occurs in isolation, so it makes sense that a solution to the Fermi paradox involves a special relationship between the origins of humans and the origin of angels. We'll probably cover the physical experience of angels in another video, but for now it's safe to regard them as physical beings with capabilities beyond our own. So let's look at some examples, biblical examples of physical interactions. So we have Samson's parents met an angel of the Lord in Judges 13. We have King David has a plague brought by an angel in 2 Samuel 24. Sodom and Gomorrah, there's an angel that visits Lot in Genesis 19. And the angel Gabriel announces babies in Luke 1 and verses 5 through 23 and 26 through 38. So in all of these examples, we can see that angels are carrying out their role as messengers. So let's go back and look at the categories and compare them to the biblical solution. So the first to mention is the idea that civilizations are rare. This is interesting from an intelligent design perspective because the rarity of civilizations has to do with evolutionary assumptions. And as soon as we say that life needs to be designed, those evolutionary assumptions go out of the window. We really don't know the rarity of life. It may be that we are the only rocky planet with biological life on it in the entire universe with trillions of galaxies, and that we are here because an intelligent designer created life here. But the timing assumptions about life have to do with a blind, random chance evolutionary scenario. As soon as intelligent design is in the mix, it is also possible that every single star system has rocky planets with life that was placed there and was specifically designed to be timed so that we all arise at the same time. So we really don't have anything to go off of there. Category 2, angels by their very nature are undetectable. They seem to exist in a fourth spatial dimension or have the ability to go invisible and intangible at will. The idea that we can't recognize them is an interesting one that I'm going to address on another day. The zoo hypothesis is where it gets really interesting, or you can think of this like the prime directive, because I think this is the closest to the biblical idea. Angels have an objective in the Bible. They're not completely neutral to humans. Angels don't want to take any worship away from God, and so they wish to remain hidden most of the time in order to accomplish their jobs. Similarly, demons have the easiest time accomplishing their jobs when they're hidden. So the zoo hypothesis actually fits this most accurately. Angels and demons both seem to have the ability to be visible at times, but they choose not to because that very rarely aligns with their goals. And finally, they simply don't share the same level of existence with us. They don't have the same physical needs that we do. They don't seem to need food. They don't seem to even need to walk on the ground like we do. And so they aren't forced by the same physical restrictions that we have to interact with the world like we do. The interesting exception to this is in the book of Daniel, where the angel says that he was blocked by the prince of Babylon in getting a message, and the archangel Michael had to come and assist him. We get a brief glimpse here that there may be some sort of territory control at play, but this doesn't seem to indicate the same sort of level of restriction that we have with three-dimensional space and even things like walking on the ground. There are many levels of territory control. So, where does that leave us? Well, I think it's really interesting to note that humankind is on a similar trajectory of progress to the biblical description of angels. We've become more and more interested in the realm of information and less invested in precise physical borders. More of our daily life exists in a simulation, just as right now you are listening to my voice and looking at these pictures in a simulation of reality. You're not actually looking at the night sky right now. But all of these things have real world consequences. Our technology would seem like magic to someone that had come from Jesus's time, and our warfare has become much more like the warfare of information, or of the kind of devastation where a single angel killed off thousands of soldiers in an instant. In this view, heaven is the unity with the galactic community in relationship with God. And Christians look forward to the day when we can join everyone else among the stars.